We never had music in the dressing room.
Ever?
Until I became captain. And then Sit Down was played at the end of the 99 Nou Camp Champions League final, and we all sat down on the pitch, the players, and faced our fans. And it's been killed by Liverpool singing it about Mo Salah as well, to be fair, which is just... Don't take that song, that's our song. Dirty old...
Great track.
I like the idea of... Every football player, I believe, wants to be a lead singer in a rock band, and every lead singer in a rock band wants to be a football player.
Right, come on, let's go. Welcome to the very first edition of Football Music and Me, a series that combines most people's two biggest passions, football and music. We've got some great guests along the series, but I'm delighted to say, kicking us off, is a man I've known for over 30 years, first as a player, then as a pundit. He is, of course, the overlord of the overlap. It's Gary Neville. As I know, you are the busiest man in the world. Analyst, hotelier, businessman, property developer. You've got your own production company. You've launched the phenomenally successful Overlap YouTube channel. So where and how do you fit music into your life?
Do you know something? It's actually interesting that, because I lived in Manchester from the age of... When did I move into Manchester? 2002, 2001 to 2006, so for 4 years. And we lived a stone's throw from the MEN Arena. It's now called the AO Arena, I think. And me and Emma would go to concerts all the time, literally all the time. So that wouldn't just be actually sort of big concerts at the AO Arena. We'd go to the sort of smaller concerts, and I was learning to play guitar at times as a hobby. Stopped now, so don't expect a little tune out of me. But in the last year... we've started to go again with another couple that we know really well. So I went 2 weeks ago to Las Vegas purely to watch U2.
Yeah, you went to the Sphere, didn't you?
Sphere.
How was it?
Amazing as a show. I've watched U2 live 3 or 4 times in stadiums in Europe. And I mean this in the nicest sense. It was more of a theatre show of U2 than it was a real rocking stadium gig that they would do. So it was a different U2, and I found it a little bit difficult in that sense. But the arena's amazing. Went to watch Bruce Springsteen, who's my idol, last summer in Hyde Park, which just absolutely blew me away. Been to watch James, Liam Frey, the Manchester bands, Charlatans, all in the last 12 to 18 months. So in the last 18 months, I've got my sort of vigour back for music. It's actually one of the things I do to relax.
I was going to say, look... I get emails or messages from you at 4 o'clock in the morning. Your company's called Relentless. You know, you are one of the most impatient people I know as well. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Listen, you walked in here today. Right, come on, let's go. It's typical.
I've got to be somewhere at 12:15 though.
But music now, I was wondering this, is it the one time you truly switch off and you can just get away from it, lose yourself?
Particularly at a concert, because you don't... I mean, literally, I went to U2. I must have been the only person in the whole of the Sphere without a phone. That literally everyone's like this video, and I'm like, come on, seriously. So I'm literally, when I go to a concert, I sometimes do a little Instagram live at the start or whatever, but generally I do switch off from it. And I like the idea of... Every football player, I believe, wants to be a lead singer in a rock band, and every lead singer in a rock band wants to be a football player. So there's that idea that sort of like, if you said, I would never swap my life for anything other than to be the Edge, which is not lead singer in a rock band, but to be the lead guitarist, or Noel Gallagher in Oasis, or that type of just.
Can you see why we started Football Music and Me? Because of the synergy between. I've always been part of Legends of Football, so we've raised millions of pounds for music therapy, and part of this goes towards that as well. But the synergy between football and music has always been there.
Yeah, and always will be. I think football players and...
They want to be musicians, they want to be footballers.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a general sort of statement, this, but I think football players and musicians tend to have come from the same type of backgrounds ordinarily. I mean, there will be exceptions, of course, but they tend to have come to the same type
working
class backgrounds, where they've basically had a guitar thrown in front of them and a football or a football. Now, I never got a guitar thrown in front of me when I was younger, but my dad would put Billy Joel on in the car. Yeah. And he would put Bruce Springsteen on. And my first album I ever bought was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, back in 1984, 85. And it was after seeing the Dancing in the Dark video on Top of the Pops, where it's Courtney Cox, a young Courtney Cox gets up on the stage, not famous at the time, and starts dancing with him. And it blew my mind. That was like amazing. It gives me goosebumps now, just Dancing in the Dark and Born in the USA and Darlington County, all those songs. That album is the greatest album. It's unbelievable, that album. And my dad would play those songs, and he'd play Billy Joel, and it was amazing last year because it was actually on the Friday night. I think Thursday night I think he was on the night after.
Yes.
And I couldn't stay down for it. But I think Roy actually came down for Billy Joel on the Friday night, and then Bruce was back on the Saturday. But Bruce Springsteen blew my mind last summer. It's the first time I've ever seen him live, which is unbelievable, really, considering he was my hero.
Was that your very first musical influence then, you think?
Yeah, I think it was. And that's when I realised that I like guitar-based music. And then obviously as a sort of, if you like, that was in like mid-80s. And then you sort of get to the sort of later 80s, that's when the sort of Manchester music scene comes along, and sort of, again, those sort of what would be rock bands with sort of guitar sort of theme through it. And that's where, if it's not got a guitar in it, I don't tend to like it, to be honest with you.
When I was thinking, you famously, when you wanted to dedicate yourself to football, you made a decision that you were not going to see any of your friends anymore. Yeah. So you didn't want to see. I know there's lots of gags about it, about them being equally delighted and all that stuff. But did you also decide you were so focused on football, you almost left the music away, or was it still?
No, because when I started driving. Music.
Did you go to bands then? Did you go and see stuff then?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. No. From 16 to 20, I didn't do anything, Geoff, honestly. I didn't do anything, but I was listening to music in my car.
Right.
I wasn't going watching bands at that time.
The only gigs you saw were Ryan.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's a terrible gag. But yeah, I just think in that period, 16 to 20.
What were you listening to then?
The last time that I remember seeing my mates from school, we were actually at a pub. It was the leaving do for all of us from our school, obviously 16 years of age. And I remember us all sitting on the floor to sit down.
Oh.
And I remember, and do you know something? Then
James.
And then Sit Down was played at the end of the 99 New Camp Champions League final, and we all sat down on the pitch, the players, and faced our fans. And to this day I get quite emotional about that song, because that song's been overplayed a little bit, and it's been killed by Liverpool singing it about Mo Salah as well, to be fair, which is just, don't take that song, that's our song. But do you know what I mean? It's like, so that song to me sort of hits me at 2 points in my life, where I leave school to dedicate my whole life to Manchester United for 4 years, and I don't see anybody for those 4 years, and that's the last song that I'm sort of, if you like, remember at that pub that night. And then the next time I hear it in my head is on the pitch at the New Camp. And now, on tomorrow night, believe it or not, tomorrow night, I'm actually, Saul from James
you're hosting,
has asked me
you?
to host with Cara a charity gig in Manchester, Music for Change. And obviously James is going to play the last 4 or 5 songs of the night. And last year I went to watch them in the orchestra tour at Blackpool, and I had the absolute pleasure, and I mean pleasure and a privilege, to sit with Tim on the floor after the gig in his dressing room for an hour just talking. And do you know something? It put me in such a... I mean, he's quite calming anyway, Tim, just when you watch him on stage. He's just a beautiful thing. He's one of the best performers you'll ever see. He's amazing, James, live. And just listening to him after just put me at peace. And not many things do that. No. And it really made me feel peaceful. But James, I've watched them probably 4, 5, 6 times now, and they mesmerise me. I think the whole band mesmerised me. The feeling, the energy, the spirit, the sort of...
I read somewhere the other day that they kind of stayed away from the Manchester scene. That was almost a deliberate...
Yeah, I don't...
You don't think of them as a Manchester band, do you?
They weren't the archetypal sort of...
No, the Roses or
Oasis. They weren't the archetypal,
not the swagger.
No, but if you look at their music and longevity and the way in which the music now, still to this day, you listen to it all the time, you find out something new all the time. Because they play so many different songs at their gigs. They never play the same sort of, if you like, set list at all from night to night, let alone tour to tour. So they're unpredictable. They're a sort of free spirit. And I would say they've become my favourite Manchester band, or favourite band generally, in the last sort of 5-10 years. Obviously I knew them when I was younger, but just generally they've morphed into, you could have said Stone Roses. I love Stone Roses. They're mesmerising. But when you look at James and the sort of, if you like, the body of work, it is absolutely amazing.
I mean, you're not demonstrably an emotional person.
No.
But on the pitch in the new camp then, when you heard that, did you tear up?
To be fair,
Are we trying not to?
When Ollie scored that goal, as you can imagine, I'm the only guy left back on corners. I don't go up for corners. Gary Neville stays back. I didn't even need to look on the set pieces sheet. So I just find it's too far to run to go. And usually I'd run sometimes. But I just lie back on the floor and I'm literally getting emotional, looking up at the sky, thinking, what the hell's just happened? It was generally an emotional evening. I always, just things that stand out that evening: to sit down on the pitch, the goal going in, and me just lying back and going, "What the hell has just happened?" I remember going back to the hotel and getting back about 1 o'clock and having the sort of drinks that you do, and then it's the only time in my life where I've never gone to sleep. I'm going to bed at 6 o'clock and actually, I remember going into my room and thinking, I'm not sleeping. I
don't want to miss a second.
No, I can't sleep. I can't. It was still.
Were you rooming with Phil?
No, it was obviously at the time I wasn't married and I was with a different girl at the time. And we went to the room and I said, look, I'm just going to go out for a walk. And I went for a walk. We were in the Arts Hotel on the front of Barcelona. And literally I just went for a walk with a drink in my hand. And I came back about 7:30, 8:15, went to breakfast, and there was some of the people were up and we started drinking champagne. It's the only time I've ever gone through in my life.
An all-nighter.
An all-nighter and an all day of the next day. But music is, Manchester is a home of music and a hotbed of music. It's so important to the city.
Do you think that has influenced your taste in music? That because you are a son of Manchester, you're
influenced by your surroundings. 100%.
Yeah, but you're the. I always describe you as an ambassador for Manchester. You're so proud of Manchester. You're part of the redevelopment, the regeneration, and you're always trying to help the community in Manchester. And it's very much your ethos. Do you think that influenced your taste in music, that you almost were gravitating towards Manchester bands because they are Manchester?
I think you do. I think I would want to say Greater Manchester because, Trafford, Salford, Bury,
Sure.
Bolton, they're all really important to me, those areas. They've all got something. Our university and our hotels in Trafford, our football clubs in Salford. And I was born in Bury. I live now in Bolton sometimes. I live in Manchester City Centre now, but generally we go back up to see my mum in Bolton. And that's where my nan and granddad live. So I do think you have to, if you're from Manchester, you can't get away from the fact that Manchester's got an incredible music scene, a rich history of bands, and you buy into that because it's what we are. We buy into each other. It's one of the greatest sort of strengths of the city. It sometimes makes me laugh when you get sort of what would be national or international sort of food concepts, hotel concepts, companies coming to Manchester, and then they'll put the sort of Manchester quotes of bands on the wall to try and think that they're from Manchester. But it's actually, to be fair, people will read right through that. I think that generally we've got good music, good bands. I think a great music scene, great art scene, great cultural scene. If you think about the fact that we've got great arenas and sort of venues for concerts.
And the new one coming up as well.
The new one coming up is going to be special. Pity it's on the wrong side of Manchester, but it's going to be special. You have to respect what they've done over there. They've done what Manchester United should have done, which is to make it a world of opportunity and art and music and football.
Maybe Sir Jim will change all that.
Well, that's where it needs to go, obviously, because that venue that's coming, the Co-op Arena, which will open, I think, in a few months' time.
April.
It's going to be special, very, very special for Manchester.
You talk about James when you're on the pitch in Barcelona in '99. Is there are there any other tracks that remind you of certain points in your life, maybe particularly in your career, that I remember we won this and this was playing in the dressing room, or? What tended to get played? Who had control?
Well, it was interesting. So we never had music in the dressing room.
Ever?
Until I became captain.
Now I've got to segue here. Have you heard the famous expression in the music industry, when somebody sings it, somebody arranges it, somebody writes it, etc., etc., and there's always a fallout. There's this famous saying, where there's a hit, there's a rip. Okay? Now, you said in an interview recently it was your decision to put the Stone Roses on as the team came out. This is the one. Brian McClair Brian McClair has disputed this, saying that you and Alan, the announcer, have got fertile imagination, and it's his idea.
Well, Brian McClair left Manchester United in 1997, 8?
Something like that.
Stone Roses didn't start getting played until 2006.
Yeah, when did you become captain?
2006, was it? 5, 6?
Yeah, Brian's claiming it's his. Jockey's claiming it's his.
What I don't rule out is that it was played maybe in 1994 or 3 or 2 when Brian was there. I can't remember that, to be fair, at all. But what I do know is that basically when I sort of came as captain, there were 2 things. One, we didn't have music in the dressing room. The manager said no, and I'm not sure Roy liked it at the time. So it was never brought forward. But when I became captain, I think it was Patrice or Rio came up to me and said, look, can we have music in the dressing room? And I went and asked the manager, and he said, yeah. But what happened was we made sure that it was a song that represented the whole dressing room. That was the only thing that I wanted at the time, was for a song to be. So basically, not to have one kind of music, to have a different representation of music of everybody that was in our dressing room and their different likes. Yes. But going back to sort of, I was quite clearly at the time, we were coming out with some Rocky song. I know that for a fact. And basically I said, it's just not right. We hadn't been successful for 3 years. I dispute Alan's record where he came to see me. I think I went to the club secretary, Ken Merritt, and said basically, look, I think we need to change the song on the way out. Alan says that he asked me about it. I'm not sure that's true.
This is Alan Keegan, the stadium announcer.
Keegan, yeah. But there's no doubt I was asked. I mean, if you look on the internet and say who put this is the one on at Old Trafford, it'll say Gary Neville. This is not from recent times. This is going back historically. So Brian.
Would you choose that track? Sorry to interrupt you. Go on. So Brian might have played it before.
No, Brian left 9 years before that. So if that song was being played back in sort of mid-90s and I'd not remembered it at that point, I wouldn't call Brian. Brian's not a liar. He's a man of honour. I'd need to speak to Brian about when he said he wanted to play it. I saw Brian at the James gig at Blackpool when I was talking to Tim after.
Oh, okay.
He's a big James fan.
I must admit, music as you come out, when the players come out, lift the crowd, etc. This is the one. It's got a short burst of sort of intensive, and it's actually quite quiet.
Yeah, I mean there are ups and downs in the song, but I think
it's not an inspirational "let's get at them," is it?
No, neither's "Dirty Old Town" at Salford, but it's about Salford, "Dirty Old Town," "Dirty Old Town."
Great track.
And the players are coming out like that. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's about the most important thing about a song coming out to is not look. What you don't want before a game is the players getting up any more than they already are anyway. I mean, let's be clear.
Oh, really? So you don't want to hype them?
You didn't need to hype. I don't know the current Manchester United dressing room or any dressing room that are playing. But what you want before a game is a player to be composed and, to be fair, to be in a position of sort of control. You don't want emotion running away by this idea that you're getting hyped up, because that's not good for a sports person or anybody going into a sort of a football match. Emotion takes away your energy sometimes. Passion's great, but that emotion sometimes, when it goes too far, can sap your energy and become a bit of a problem for you. That is a thing. So for me, the idea of coming out to a song that gets you going, I don't think you needed at Old Trafford in the tunnel a song that got us going. We knew we had to go out there and win. What we wanted was a song that was representative of our city, representative of the club, and meant something. So to me, This Is the One is that song. That's why I sort of at the time chose that song.
Do you think he should stay and that's your anthem?
I don't think that song can ever move personally, but that's not to say that, we're stuck in the past. For me, that song should remain like the club blazer. The Busby Babes wear the club blazer, right? We always wore the club blazer as a class of 92, or the class. We always wore the club blazer away from home. Sometimes they move to tracksuits. I get that, but if there is an event that the club have to represent of stature or of meaning or of some sort of symbolic nature, the players, the people at the club should all have the club blazer on. In my opinion, that's not being stuck in the past. That's respecting the past and understanding that sort of tradition and values is important. So for me, looking at that song, it's now been there for a number of years, 15 years, 20 years. Why would you change that? Why would you change that unless someone thinks it basically contributes to their look? But I always remember when a coach, Jim Ryan,
I remember Jim.
Jim's a great guy, and to be fair, has a bigger influence on my sort of psychology at times than probably I would ever probably have spoken about. So I used to say to him, I have this ridiculous thing that I used to wear the same coloured underpants every game during my career.
Same coloured or same pair?
No, same coloured.
Red?
And I said, Jim,
what colour were they?
White. Anyway,
why?
So I just because it's something I did. Same tuber grip, same tape. The physios knew it. I used to put same underpants on, go to the same toilet to read the programme, even though sometimes I didn't need the toilet. In the players' lounge for every United game, there were same seat on the coach next to Beck's. I never shifted. There were things I did that were part of my routine. And Jim Ryan once said to me, it's really interesting that the whole success of Manchester United depends on the colour of your underpants. He said, it's really interesting that and he would take the piss out of me, but it was actually something I thought, he actually got a point. And then he actually said, but on an individual level, he said, all those hours that you've worked all your life, thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours, all that practice that you put in, and you're putting an even little bit of importance on the fact that your colour of your underpants is disrespectful to the work that you've done. Rely upon your work, the preparation, the way in which you've sort of applied yourself. And it did really, to be fair, it always stuck with me that. When people say about superstitions and routine, I got into the same sort of routine that everybody else does.
I'm very
football
surprised
player.
at you.
No, but all the football players had their routines and their superstitions. And he just, to me, summed it up quite sort of what would be in a calculated fashion. That Manchester United were only successful all those years because of Gary Neville's white underpants. And it's a nonsense, obviously. Yeah. Or a song, for that matter. So could they change it? This is the one? Yeah, of course they could. Do Manchester United win because this is the one he's played? No, it's proven to not be true in the last 10 years. But it is a song of importance.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. How was Sir Alex with the music when it was introduced and stuff was being played?
I just remember him saying, fucking nonsense off. That's the words I can hear in my head. Now, that could be because...
But he likes his music.
Oh,
he likes to sing, he likes to whistle.
But do you imagine he likes the same music as Patrice Evra or Gary Neville or...
No.
I
think he's an Alma Colgan fan.
Well, we didn't have Alma Colgan on the dressing room, I can assure you of that.
I only know that because he's a previous legend of football. And we've got a compilation of all of his favourite artists. So he'd be very traditional. He'd be of his generation.
He would sing quite a lot when he was in good form, sort of around the training ground. You'd hear him sort of like... he went along with it. He adapted to sort of what would be all the things that happened in dressing rooms. And we used to have by the way, the idea that before that, when Roy was there, wasn't the case it was a quiet dressing room. We had Sky Sports News on, or we had the Football Focus on. We literally had the football on if it was on. We had the television on until 2:30 before we went out for a warm-up. So it wasn't as if like it was nothing on in the dressing room. It was just the fact that music on top of the telly wasn't the thing.
And we know you had it on because half the time, whatever's gone on our programme, Sir Alex would come storming out. You just said so because he's been watching it.
Yeah, but you think that might be a distraction for us. But actually, I think distraction in that period between 1:45 and 2:30 was for me the worst time as a football player because you were ready, but you couldn't really do anything. Mm-hmm. You were either sat there, you try and create things to do in that 45 minutes because just to sit there and not do anything for 45 minutes, it's tough. So you actually try and read the programme, or you go and have a chat, or you might have a coffee, or you might have more. You kept on drinking. You end up going to the toilet quite a few times because you've drunk that much water and you've sort of hydrated. But it's a difficult
period. You're killing time.
The second you go out for the warm-up, you're on. Because basically, you're at it then. You're in the game. But that 45 minutes was important. So a bit of music, something on the television, and distracting us away from what would be the idea that we were going to go out and play a big game against whoever it may be. I think it was quite important that period that you did have it sort of filled with something that would not distract you, but would just, if you wanted to, just take your mind away from it. How much time can you actually think about your opponent? You've thought about them that morning, you've thought about them the day before in training, you've thought about them on the Thursday night when you're starting to think about the game. There's only so much you can think about them before you start to think, actually, I need to just pull away from it. Yeah.
Where and when, or perhaps why, did you pick up a guitar and start learning to play?
Because my relationship that I mentioned in 99, the girl that I was with, it broke up and ended up living in Manchester on my own for 3 years. And I found myself in the afternoon, particularly in sort of afternoons where we'd afternoon off. So, I mean, I'd stay there quite late at the training ground. But let's say you got home at day before a game or 2 days before a game at 2 o'clock, because you wouldn't do double training sessions, well, particularly if we were playing.
No, not Thursday, Fridays.
Saturday, Wednesday. We were always Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. We were always in the Champions League knockout phase. So Monday and Thursday, I would have guitar lessons off Simon. Simon was part of a band called Clinton Avenue with Clint. And they still do little gigs for us to this day, for my birthday or for our Christmas do. They still come and do like an hour.
They guitar duo?
Yeah. Well, Simon's a guitarist, Clint's a singer. I used to go and watch Clinton Avenue when I first met Emma. We used to go and watch them play. But Simon was my guitar teacher for Monday to Thursday, and the guitar, and he just literally. And look, I got to the point where I could play quite a few songs. I obviously got up on stage with Charlatans about 10, 12 years ago. But now the problem is, and it rips. I've got an acoustic guitar. I still got the same one. And it rips my fingers to shreds. So unless you play quite regularly, it hardens your finger, sort of your ends of your fingers. But I got to a point whereby I was quite sort of like, I was average, let's be clear. But got to a point whereby you could tell that I was playing a song. You know what I mean?
You could pick out the tune.
Yeah, you could. And I got to a point whereby I don't know why I finished. I think it was when we had children, and that afternoon of sort of Monday and Thursday, if Molly was there, and obviously she, I would be with Molly, and I would just like, go home and play with Molly or sort of do things with Molly, and you end up then not playing guitar. And I always remember when the kids were 1 or 2, and you know what kids are like when they're that age, if you are playing guitar, they come over and take the guitar off you and want to play with you, so you never end up in a position where you're playing. So probably an excuse this, but I just ended up just not doing it anymore.
Was there any track, as you were learning, you had him off that, when I want to learn to play the guitar because I want to be able to play this?
The 2 songs that I could play, the 3 songs that I could play the riffs of were the Lars, There She Goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Waterfall, Stone Roses, and then Master Plan, Oasis, which was one of my favourite songs of the time, which is a B-side, but it's probably one of their most beautiful songs. And it started up here, then moved down, and then it went right the way down to sort of the other end of the guitar, and they were the 3 songs that I worked on a lot and tried to play a lot. You can strum to most songs, but the idea of the riff bit where you're moving your fingers along and you're sort of picking out the sort of things, that's really guitar playing.
So bear in mind the pressure. You're brought up with it, as you say. You're famously at times non-emotional. So you played in big occasions. You've been on television a lot, etc. How did that feel pressure-wise? They're going on stage with either the Charlatans or James Bay, because you were up there.
I forgot about that one.
Hey, you've just.
But that was when I'd stopped playing. Charlatans, I was still half playing a little bit.
What was that like? That whole experience?
Yeah, it was. I was nervous wreck. I was absolutely nervous wreck. The only thing I said to Tim and to Mark was, "Look, get me on early." Because I can't watch you all night and then be sort of waiting. So I think they got me on third song, When You're Thinking Things Over. And honestly, I really enjoyed it, to be fair. I look back now, I mean, look at it on YouTube. I'm very stiff, as you can imagine. I play guitar like I played football, you know what I mean? Quite rigid and sort of like a ski as well. And everything's just a little bit...
Box-like.
Yeah. And just, but I really liked it because I think I love Charlatans, love Tim. They're amazing. And it was an honour, to be honest with you, to actually go on sort of stage with them. But I was a nervous wreck, Geoff. Honestly, a nervous wreck. But I always say yes to these types of things. I think it's important to put yourself out your comfort zone. It's really important to do that in life. And when I finished my football career, there are many things that I've done where I've put myself out of my comfort zone. Whether it be that with the Charlatans, I'm actually DJing with Tim.
Well,
Kendall Calling. What the hell am I doing?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
I'm trying to wangle a way out of it, but I can't, because once I've said yes to something, and I've said yes to Tim, who I trust.
How can you wangle you out of it, given that you've christened yourself DJG Dog B2B?
Is that them on? G Dog. DJ G
DJ. You are DJ G Dog B2B.
Is that what it is?
Yes. What is? I mean,
Tim just said we'll play a group of songs to what would he? I think he said they're a very.
This is at Kendall Calling. The music festival.
I think it's on the Sunday night after the final act's on, and obviously then there's loads of people. Still
You're closing
there.
the show.
Oh, absolutely. I will close it. Wait till they get Innocent Man from Billy Joel and they go, "What's this?" No. Yeah, I just said we'll pick a group of songs that will. And the crowd are in good form, and we'll go for it. And
have you ever DJ'd?
Never in my life. I'm hoping I have to press a play button. To be fair, Tim has, obviously, thousands of times. So I'll just be accompanying him. But I'm just worried about what I'm actually going to do, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit like...
Well, you got to choose the tracks. You got... Right, I kid you not, right? I kid
Are you a
not.
DJ, Geoff?
I was talking to Matt Murray the other day, you know, the old Wolves goalkeeper?
Yeah.
And on Sky, smashing lad, Matt. He told me that Jolyon Lescott has DJ lessons.
Right. Well, that was, to be honest, one surprise me, quite a few football players didn't have DJ lessons.
Yeah, but have lessons.
Yeah, but a football player has to do something in their afternoon. I always say this, you're a football player and people might say, well, okay, you go from 8 in the morning till 1 some days. That's a fact. You cannot do more than that when you're playing 3 times a week. Rest is as important as training. Recovery is as important as training. But what you do need is that afternoon period when you get home on a Thursday between 2 and 4, 2 and 5. It might be when you've gone to pick the kids up. You just can't do nothing.
No.
I find it really impossible to believe that football players go home and do nothing, unless they're sleeping day before a game, which sometimes happens. So think of a skill outside of football that you can learn. That could be a hobby, it could be something that distracts you, it could be something that helps you.
Could be a business, could be anything.
It could be a business, it could be sitting on a board, it could be actually something educational, but do something. And every 3 years, review what you do. And if you continue to like what you're doing, do it again, but continue to do things. So I just think, for me, it doesn't surprise me that Jolyon or other players would do stuff like that. I mean, there are some...
I was saying it really to let you know you ought to speak to Jolyon. You might need some help before the gig.
Yeah, I mean, maybe...
Come on, let's give it a proper plug. What's the date of Kendall Calling?
Oh, I'm on stage, 4th of August, closer play, I think about 10:30, 11. 1st to 4th of August, and Sunday night.
Have you thought properly about your set list yet?
No, I think what I'll do is, it's a bit of a way out yet. I think what will happen is a couple of months before, or a month or so before, I think probably I'll get together with Tim and we'll go, right, okay, well, I don't know how long we're on for even, but let's say it's an hour, and say, look, what songs do you think people will want at that time of night?
Other than...
and hopefully he'll come up with a good set list.
Other than your, obviously, Tim and James as well, and anybody else through your post-football career you've met musically and, you know, sort of spent time with them?
Cortinas.
Yeah,
the guys from Cortinas. They've been on a couple of our Christmas dues, our business Christmas dues in Manchester, and they're great lads. So yeah, I'm trying to think who else.
Have you interviewed anybody for the Overlap, musician-wise?
No, I interviewed Noel Gallagher, didn't I? Do you remember for Sky Sports?
It was like two people going at each other.
Yeah, and chirping away. The problem is he's got a lot to chirp about in the last 7 or 8 years, haven't they? You know what I mean? That's the problem. I think I'll only interview him again when we're starting to win. He'll come. Pep will leave soon. Klopp will leave. Pep will leave. They'll all go, and then we'll back to normal. Obviously I interviewed Noel for the Manchester Derby. Noel's been to the studio, hasn't he, doing a Super Sunday?
Yes.
I'm trying to think who else has been in. And
well, you saw Harry Styles the other day, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you really not recognise him?
Honestly, he walked in with the Luton. So I recognised the Luton owner who walked in. So I was actually talking to the Luton owner because I'd interviewed...
Who were talking? Gary Sweet, the chief exec?
Chief exec. Sorry.
Yeah. And I tell you who came in with, who's... I know him, he's a smashing guy.
Harry Styles.
Rob Stringer from Sony.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was Rob.
But Harry was at the back, and Luton, Gary Sweet was at the front. There. But we'd interviewed him for the first or second Friday night football of the season, and got on really well. I felt like I had a lot of synergies with him because obviously Luton have done them promotions from League Two. We're in League Two with Salford. I was really interested in his story and how they'd done it and how they'd achieved it. Brilliant. So I was talking to him, and then I saw one guy go past, and then I shook the hand of Harry, but I was concentrating on the conversation with Gary, and he walked past, and I saw Jamie Redknapp get up and go, "Hey, are you right?" I thought, oh no.
You've blanked him.
I didn't blank him, no, I shook his hand, but I just didn't sort of like...
Didn't register.
Yeah, because, ultimately, I wasn't expecting it. It threw me completely, which, to be fair, my daughters absolutely adore him. They went and watched him at Lancashire Cricket Club. It was like a year or so ago now. He literally filled, he fills everywhere, but he was...
He's a global megastar.
Phenomenal, yeah, absolutely.
Hello.
Yeah, are you all right? Let me carry on talking to you. Let me carry on talking to Gary Sweet about Lee 2 finances. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So that was it.
Of the lads you played with, best singer?
Best singer. Rooney's not bad. Rooney got up with James Bay, didn't he, at the England thing? So Carragher tomorrow night at the Music for Change concert. We had a call last week with Saul and the sort of organisers. I said, look, Carragher fancies himself as a bit of a singer. I said, I don't know if you want this, but he might come on at the end. He likes to sort of go on and do a little bit of a number. I've seen him do it in Liverpool, you know what I mean, with his mob.
Well, his wife, Nicola's a fantastic singer.
Oh, is she?
Oh,
Didn't realise
amazing.
that. Oh, right. Well, you know that.
She sang at my 50th birthday.
Oh, wow. So anyway,
It was last week.
yeah. So basically, he's going on with them tomorrow night and doing Laid. I mean, seriously.
Big pressure.
For him, I rang him. I said, look, do you want to go on stage and sing Laid with James? Of course. I mean, that's like a dream for him. People like James Carragher don't do pressure. They thrive on all that sort of stuff. They're not like normal people, you know what I mean? Everything's a laugh for them. He got with Jamie Webster and the overlap on tour, didn't you remember? He's got up and sang with him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do pressure stuff like that, Carragher. That's like not
just
pressure.
Get on with it.
Yeah, that's like, for me, I'd be like, absolutely like, but he's going up, yeah. So unbelievable that, really. I mean, to go on stage with Tim and the band and sing Slade, I mean, it's unbelievable. What an experience, but we're going to see it tomorrow night.
Well, obviously, I'll hopefully have Cara on here at some point.
Yeah.
You're aware, because you've supported us, you've done brilliantly for us over the years at Legends of Football. Do you think now do you understand or appreciate the power of music and also it as a therapy tool as well? Yeah,
I mean, I've travelled halfway around the world 2 weeks ago to go and watch a band. It's mad. 11 hours on a flight.
No, I'm talking about people who are suffering from dementia.
Sorry.
As a therapy.
But the power of music, absolutely. And obviously, I wasn't aware until I came to the first Nordhoff Robbins event many, many years ago. Now, I can't remember who it was that you were...
Giggsy? Was it Giggsy's
May have
year?
been, yeah. It may have been. But I just remember...
Did the Stereophonics play that night?
They might have done.
Yeah, they played in Giggs' year.
Done. Yeah, and I remember seeing the video that obviously was played on stage and understood the way in which sort of music and therapy was sort of, if you like, hand in hand and going to sort of support and help people, and wasn't really that aware of it, to be honest with you, up until that point. But now obviously I am, because I've been to 2 or 3 of those events.
Well, it's just what we've seen is, you see people really struggling to connect with the world. It could be people who have severe autism, people with dementia.
Yeah.
It lifts them and just takes them to somewhere where they can't get without it.
Yeah.
And Manchester now, we have a branch of Nordhoff and Robbins in Manchester as well. So hopefully it will just continue to grow, and the more we spread the word, the more people get involved as well.
Yeah. I mean, music's a phenomenon, isn't it, really? I always think football is a phenomenon. Actually, music is more important than football, really. You think to people's lives all around the world. Wherever you go, you can never get away from music. But there might be countries, I mean, most countries play football, and most countries, to be fair, football is huge. But music is huge everywhere, whether it be sort of, if you like, whatever kind of music. And that, like I say, you went back to sort of Manchester before. A big part of Manchester, probably the 2 biggest parts of Manchester potentially, are music and football.
Do you want my horrible question that I put to Glenn Hoddle the other day? I'm going to give you a choice. If I gave you the choice, you either never see a game of football again, or you never hear music again. Which would you choose? You can only have football or music.
I love my football. I love my football. I mean, look, I'm a football man, and the idea of not watching a football match again. Yesterday I was at the cup final, obviously the Carabao Cup final, and to be fair, the team that scored in the last minute wasn't the team that I wanted to score in the last minute. Not that I wanted the other team to score in the last minute either. I didn't want any of them to win. But when you see football, sometimes that thrill of a last-minute winner and the mesmerising nature of sort of what it brings. But then when I go to a concert, it's the only other time where I feel that you've got genuine joy and happiness and togetherness. It's a real special feeling when you go to a concert of everyone is there to enjoy themselves and be entertained. And that's the same with football. They're unique, both of them. But I can't see myself never watching a football match again.
I don't know why I've come up with it. It's a horrible question.
Yeah, but I think, to be fair, could I do without music? No, it'd be difficult, because I think music's such an important part of all our lives. When you think of it, if you put, and I think a lot of people say this maybe from Manchester, if you put me on a seat in a bar or in a pub, and you just hear the ring of that acoustic guitar and someone singing with a little bit of a gravelly voice, I'm instantly in a good place and happy. It's amazing. I'm actually getting goosebumps a little bit. The idea of sort of someone singing live in a small venue, in a pub, the idea of them singing sort of songs, and it's absolutely amazing. You have a drink and you've got friends around you. It's probably one of the best environments you could ever put me in. And I'm not a big drinker, I'm not a big socialiser, but just the idea that it's an amazing feeling.
It's the transformative effect of music, isn't it?
Yeah.
Say if we were sat in a bar having a drink, fine, we're having a natter.
Absolutely.
Somebody put a good track on, you're away.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even better, someone sort of, acoustic guitar comes on with a singer, and you sort of, or a piano even, not necessarily, I'm more in guitar than piano, but you just all of a sudden feel that lift. The lift in the room. You're right, a good song on a, coming through the speaker systems work, but I think live music is incredible. I love live music. I love watching the musicians. I love watching the way in which they perform. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not into theatre or opera or anything like that. Just what would be that type of music that I listen to.
What are you listening to at the moment?
I listen to U2 a lot recently, because obviously I was going to watch them, but I still listen to James, Bruce Springsteen. I think they're the two bands.
Do you like the different periods that Springsteen had as well? When you think of, like, say, Tunnel of Love, the album,
yeah, but
it's quite country, and we've just seen Beyonce's just released a country and western track.
I saw that the other day, the video for it, and the music, it was brilliant.
Texas Hold'em,
absolutely brilliant.
I think it's amazing.
But you know something? I actually think that Beyonce, and look, I can't call myself a Beyonce fan. I couldn't name 3 songs, but there are some artists that are that good that they can transcend across all the sort of different, if you like, demographic of people and attract to them. And she's got that. She's a world class. So she had the idea that she can do a sort of, I think she's the first black singer to ever be in the top of the country and western charts in America, which I think is amazing. She's the opposite of divisive.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Inclusive.
In a world where I just see so much division, I'm not going political on you here, but there's so much divisive language. And I think that someone like that can connect people. You know what I mean? That to me, that music can do that. Football does that. Football and music can bring people together, and really importantly do that. And I think that Bruce Springsteen, you don't last 3-4 generations unless you're very special at that level. You don't. And I watched him last year at Hyde Park do 3 hours, 15 minutes. 3 hours, 15 minutes. He's 73 years of age. He looked $1 million. And I looked at him and thought, wow. So much respect, so much admiration. Not because he stayed at the very top. Hunger, desire, work ethic, skill, all those things, entertaining, fit, healthy, all the things you would want. I mean, I'm sure he's got his imperfections like everybody has, but he was just, to me, I felt so good watching him. And there was a song actually said about making emotional. He's got a song on the Born in the USA album called My Hometown. And I always remember my dad playing it in the car because it was a song we liked.
Nev, your dad, he's great. I loved
know, and I was literally welling up that night at the concert, just feeling emotional, just hearing him sing that song. I didn't know he'd sing it, to be honest with you, but he did. But it just reminded me of being in my car with my dad when I was younger, travelling to the cricket matches in the summer or the football matches. So yeah, football music can bring that emotion into your life.
I get emotional thinking about your dad. You know how much I loved your dad. Well, everybody did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I always tell people the famous story because it was Germany. Was it Euros 2006?
Yeah.
He rang me. He'd been in camp for a long time. He said, when are you getting here, Geoff? I said, I'm here tomorrow. He said, I need a breakout. So we went on one. And next day somebody said to me, what did you do? I said, I went out with Neville in Baden-Baden and I got pissed. We had such a good time.
To be fair, I always remember, it was actually at Old Trafford when I was younger. And I can't remember what it was. They said we were picking some tickets, but I don't know how or why. And the woman said to him, "What's your name?" And he went, "Neville." And she went, "First or last?" And he went, "All fucking lot, love." And I always remember that. So it just sticks in my mind. He might have said all bloody lot love, all bloody lot love, something like that. Said the effing out, but I always remember laughing at the time, thinking, I mean, my nan, seriously. When I think of my nan, God bless her, and
it was because it was the nurse said you can't call him Neville, didn't she?
Yeah, and as soon as you say something like that to my nan, you're like, oh my gosh, do the opposite of what you.
Hey, a star was born.
Yeah.
I just want to finish with, do you think there is, in many ways, they're comparable, being a top-level athlete, footballer, and an artist to a degree, in that the way you have to conduct yourself, look after yourself, and you are only at the top of your trade while they want you. Now, that can be a manager wanting to pick you, or it can be the public wanting to buy your stuff.
There is that, but then I see some of the sort of bands, and they had a hell of a time, haven't they? I mean, compared to footballers.
others dedicated. I think some musicians dedicated themselves to their craft, if you like, of their life in the total opposite way you dedicated yours.
Yeah, but what I would say is that, and I've seen a glimpse of it. I looked at Bruce Springsteen on stage last year, and I don't know this, but I suspect he's got a nutritionist. I suspect he's got a fitness guru. I suspect he's in the gym every single day. I suspect he's doing a lot of work to be able to go out there 3 times a week and do that 3 hours, because he looked absolutely fantastic. And we have had a couple of artists stay at our hotel in Manchester, and their demands around food, nutrition, sort of what would be access to gyms, yoga, Pilates, things, I see it a little bit. So there is a huge professionalism around, obviously, now these artists looking after themselves, because what they put themselves through in terms of that 2 hours of intensity on 3-4 times a week, that's what a football player does. They put themselves through that top 2 hours 3 times a week, and then they're training every single day. And you have to be absolutely on it for that. You know, if you take a chance with your preparation as a musician now, I suspect, or certainly as a football player, you'd be found out in 10 seconds. You know, the idea that you would damage your throat, I think, if you were to abuse yourself with drink too much, or if you were to sort of not prepare physically, you wouldn't be able to then get out on stage and last. And, you know, we all know the sort of benefit. We're all a lot more sort of wise around health and training and physical health and mental health. So I suspect that's something that's quite new in the last 10, 15 years for musicians as well, because before that, I suspect they were having a good time after a concert. The usual thing would have been, right, we're on the lash. But to be fair, that was the same for football players. But now I would be surprised if there are many bands that do that on a regular basis. They will probably now, after a concert, they'll probably start their recovery of their voice, of their bodies, to start work for the next day or next, you know, gig that they have in the next couple of days. So there are some similarities, but it's the same with everything. You get the flash in the pans, the one sort of song wonders, the one album wonders. You get the ones that stay there for 10, 15, 20 years, and you get the ones that are legends and stay there forever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're watching U2 last week 2 weeks ago in Vegas, and they've got Elvis up on the screen. Do you know what I mean? Elvis is there. Obviously, in Las Vegas, he's there. But Marilyn Monroe's there. And you just see these people who are legends of sort of what would be art and music, and they're never going to go away from us because they just transcended.
Icons.
They are icons. They're beyond. And there are some of those that sort of the music will live on. The Beatles will be the same. Obviously, their music just will live on forever, irrespective of sort of like, say, whether they're here or not.
Great stuff.
Thanks, Geoff.
Join me next time when I sit down with a genuine Hollywood star who's also a member of the original Crazy Gang and the man who claims he put music into football dressing rooms, Vinnie Jones.